Tonight, billionaire, tech mogul Richard Blackstone receives an invitation that will shatter his world. The woman he callously divorced 15 years ago has been hiding something monumental, twin heirs to his empire. But this isn't about money, it's about justice and the reckoning he never saw coming. Before we dive into this incredible story of hidden secrets and ultimate karma, hit that like button if you love stories where justice finally wins. And don't forget to subscribe. You won't want to miss what happens next. Picture this: Richard Blackstone, 45 years old, standing in his glass-walled penthouse office on the 62nd floor, looking down at a city that bows to his every whim. This man built a tech empire from nothing, and now his company's worth billions. He's got the Midas touch, they say. Everything he touches turns to gold. But here's what they don't tell you about men like Richard. Success has a way of rotting you from the inside out. His phone buzzes on the mahogany desk, but it's not another business call. It's his assistant, nervous as always, telling him about a package that just arrived. No return address, just an elegant cream envelope with his name written in handwriting he hasn't seen in 15 years. His hands actually shake as he opens it, and that's when you know something's about to change everything. Inside, there's a simple invitation. The Riverstone Gallery, 8 p.m. tonight. Come alone. V. That's it. No explanation. No phone number. Just a single letter that makes his blood run cold. V. He knows exactly who that is, and the memories come flooding back like a dam bursting open. 15 years ago, Richard Blackstone was a different man, or at least he thought he was. That's when he met Vivien Clark at a charity auction, this stunning woman with the most beautiful mind he'd ever encountered. She wasn't like the shallow socialites he usually dated. Vivian was an art curator, brilliant and passionate, someone who could talk about Renaissance painters one moment and debate philosophy the next. She saw art where others saw investment opportunities, found beauty where others saw dollar signs. Their love story started like a fairy tale. Richard was climbing the ladder of success, but he wasn't at the top yet. He was still hungry, still had that fire that made him human. Vivian brought culture into his world of spreadsheets and board meetings. She'd drag him to gallery openings, introduce him to artists who painted with their souls, show him that there was more to life than profit margins. And God, he loved her for it. They were married within a year, and for a brief moment, Richard Blackstone knew what happiness felt like. But success is a jealous mistress, and as Richard's company grew, so did his ego. His family, old money types who thought they were royalty, they hated Vivian from day one. She wasn't from their world, didn't have the right pedigree, didn't kiss the right rings. They whispered poison in his ear at every family gathering, told him she was beneath him, that she was holding him back from his true potential. And slowly, shamefully, Richard started believing them. The divorce was a massacre. Richard didn't just leave Vivian, he destroyed her. He hired the most ruthless lawyers money could buy, turned their love story into a business transaction gone wrong. They painted her as a gold digger, said she'd seduced him for his money, made her look like some scheming woman who'd trapped an innocent businessman. The media ate it up because Richard Blackstone was news, and Vivien Clark was nobody. She tried to fight back, tried to tell her side of the story, but who was going to believe the ex-wife over the billionaire? Richard's legal team was surgical in their cruelty. They didn't just take her dignity, they took her career. Art galleries wouldn't hire her, museums wouldn't return her calls, and collectors who once respected her expertise suddenly acted like she didn't exist. Richard made sure she was blacklisted from the only world she'd ever loved. When the divorce was finalized, Vivian walked away with almost nothing. Richard kept the penthouse, the cars, the art collection they'd built together, even the pieces she'd discovered. She got a small settlement that his lawyers made sure wouldn't last long, and a reputation so damaged that she might as well have been wearing a scarlet letter. The last time Richard saw Vivien Clark, she was walking out of that courthouse looking like a ghost of the woman he'd fallen in love with. She didn't cry, didn't scream, didn't beg. She just looked at him with these eyes that seemed to see right through to his soul, and then she disappeared. 15 years of silence. No contact, no sightings, no forwarding address. It was like she'd vanished from the face of the earth. Now, staring at that invitation, Richard Blackstone realizes that ghosts from the past don't stay buried forever. Tonight, he's about to discover that some reckonings are worth waiting for. Richard's hands are trembling as he pushes open the glass doors of the Riverstone Gallery. The moment he steps inside, he knows this isn't some coincidence. This place screams success, the kind of understated elegance that only comes with real money and impeccable taste. The walls are lined with paintings that make his breath catch, not because of their price tags, but because of their raw emotional power. Every piece tells a story of love, family, connection, everything he threw away 15 years ago. He's studying a painting of two children laughing in a field when he hears footsteps behind him. Slow, deliberate, confident. His entire body goes rigid because he knows that walk, even after all these years. He turns around, and there she is. Vivien Clark stands before him like a vision he doesn't deserve to see. At 42, she's even more beautiful than he remembered, but it's a different kind of beauty now. Refined, powerful, unbreakable. She's wearing a simple black dress that probably costs more than most people's cars, and her hair is pulled back in a way that shows off the elegant lines of her face. But it's her eyes that stop him cold. They're not the broken, defeated eyes he saw in that courthouse. These eyes belong to a woman who has conquered the world. "Hello, Richard," she says, and her voice is silk wrapped around steel. "Thank you for coming." He tries to speak, tries to find words, but nothing comes out. She's not the victim he left behind. She's something else entirely, something magnificent and terrifying all at once. This gallery, this success, this transformation, it's impossible. The woman he destroyed was supposed to stay destroyed. "I know what you're thinking," Vivien continues, moving gracefully through her domain like a queen in her castle. "How did the woman you left with nothing become this?" She gestures around the gallery, and Richard finally notices the small plaques next to each painting. Artists he's never heard of, but the prices make his head spin. This isn't just any gallery. This is a gold mine. That's when he hears the laughter. Two teenagers emerge from the back room, and Richard's world tilts on its axis. The boy is tall for his age, maybe 14, with Richard's stubborn jawline and those piercing blue eyes that have stared back at him from mirrors his entire life. The girl is smaller, delicate like her mother, but she has Richard's hands, the long, elegant fingers he inherited from his grandmother. "Richard," Vivien says, her voice carrying a weight that makes the air thick. "I'd like you to meet Jasper and Luna, your children." The words hit him like a physical blow. Children, his children, standing right there, looking at him with curiosity instead of recognition, because they don't know him. They don't know him because he wasn't there. He wasn't there because he didn't even know they existed. "That's impossible," he whispers, but even as he says it, he knows it's not. The math adds up perfectly. They're 14, the divorce was 15 years ago, and Vivien was, oh God, she was pregnant. She was pregnant during those brutal court proceedings when his lawyers were ripping her apart, calling her names, destroying her reputation. She was carrying his children while he was treating her like an enemy. "I found out I was pregnant 2 weeks after you filed for divorce," Vivien says, reading his thoughts with the same intuition she always had. "Twins. I wanted to tell you, Richard, I really did. But your legal team had made it very clear what kind of man you'd become. I couldn't risk my babies being raised by someone who saw people as assets to be acquired or liabilities to be eliminated." Jasper steps forward and Richard sees himself at that age. Serious, analytical, protective. "We know who you are," the boy says simply. "Mom told us everything about how you met, how you fell in love, and how you changed." There's no anger in his voice, just a matter-of-fact delivery that somehow hurts worse than any accusation. Luna, the artist, tilts her head and studies Richard like he's a painting she's trying to understand. "You look different than I imagined," she says softly. "Sadder." Richard stares at these perfect strangers who share his DNA, these children who grew up without him because he'd become someone unworthy of their love. 14 years of birthdays he missed, first steps he never saw, bedtime stories he never read. 14 years of being a father without knowing it, while Vivien raised his children alone. The woman he destroyed didn't just survive. She created life, nurtured it, protected it from him. The silence in that gallery stretches like a tightrope, and Richard feels like he's walking across it without a net. His children, God, his children, are standing there looking at him with polite curiosity, the way you'd look at a stranger at a coffee shop. Not with love, not with longing, just with the mild interest you'd show someone who doesn't really matter in your life. And that realization hits him harder than any business failure ever could. 14 years, he finally manages to say, his voice cracking like he's a teenager again. You kept them from me for 14 years. The anger starts building in his chest, that familiar rage that's gotten him through every boardroom battle, every hostile takeover. You had no right, Vivian, no right to make that choice for me. But Vivian doesn't flinch. She doesn't step back or look away like everyone else does when Richard Blackstone gets angry. Instead, she actually smiles, and it's not a nice smile. It's the smile of someone who's been waiting 15 years for this exact moment. Rights? She says, her voice getting sharper. You want to talk about rights? What right did you have to destroy my career? What right did you have to turn me into a pariah in my own industry? What right did you have to paint me as some scheming gold digger when all I ever did was love you? Richard feels his face getting hot, his hands clenching into fists. That was business, Vivian. Divorce is business. But this, he gestures wildly at Jasper and Luna, who are watching this confrontation like they're studying some fascinating social experiment. This is my flesh and blood. These are my heirs. And that's when Jasper speaks up, his voice calm and steady in a way that reminds Richard uncomfortably of himself during important negotiations. We're not your anything, Nema, the boy says simply. We're Clark children. We always have been. The words hit Richard like a slap across the face. You're Blackstones, he snaps back. You carry my DNA, my intelligence, my... You're what? Luna interrupts, and there's fire in her eyes now. The same fire he remembers from Vivian all those years ago. Your cruelty, your selfishness, your ability to throw away everything good in your life for money. She picks up a sketch pad from a nearby table and flips it open. I drew this last year, she says, showing him a charcoal drawing of a man in a suit walking away from a woman and two small children. The man's face is blank, empty. The title at the bottom reads, The Father We Never Needed. Richard stares at the drawing, and it's like looking into a mirror that shows him exactly who he really is. You don't understand, he says desperately. I can give you everything. Private schools, college funds, connections, opportunities. We have all of that, Jasper says matter-of-factly. Mom made sure of it. She built this life for us without you, without your money, without your help. We go to the best schools, we travel, we have everything we need. What exactly do you think you're offering us? That's when the real blow comes. Vivian walks over to her desk and picks up a folder, thick with documents. You want to know what's really funny, Richard? You keep talking about giving them opportunities, but you can't even give yourself opportunities anymore. Your company's hemorrhaging money, your investors are jumping ship, and your third wife just filed for divorce. Again. She opens the folder and starts reading from what looks like financial reports. Stock down 60% in the last year, 3 major lawsuits pending, and let's see, oh yes, the IRS investigation. Richard's blood turns to ice. How do you know about that? Vivian's smile gets wider, more dangerous. Because, darling, I know everything about you. I've been watching, waiting, learning. Do you know what I discovered? The art world is smaller than you think, but it's also more connected than you ever imagined. Those collectors you dismissed, those gallery owners you thought were beneath you, they talk to each other. They remember the woman you tried to destroy, and they remember why. She walks closer to him, and Richard realizes that this isn't just a reunion. This is a reckoning. You see, when you blacklisted me from the art world, you made one crucial mistake. You assumed I'd stay down. You assumed I'd disappear quietly and never bother you again. But what you didn't count on was that some people get stronger when they're broken. The room feels like it's spinning, and Richard finally understands that he's not the predator here. He's the prey. Vivian sets the folder down on her desk with a soft thud that sounds like thunder in the silence of the gallery. Richard's watching her every move like a man watching his execution. And honestly, that's not far from the truth. What's about to happen next is 15 years of patience, planning, and perfect timing all coming together in one devastating moment. "Let me tell you a story, Richard," Vivian says, walking slowly around the gallery like she's giving him a private tour of his own destruction. "Once upon a time, there was a broken woman who lost everything. Her career, her reputation, her husband, even her sense of self-worth. She was pregnant with twins and had nowhere to go, no one to turn to, and no way to fight back against the machine that had crushed her. Richard's standing there like a statue, afraid to move, afraid to breathe because he can feel something massive coming his way. So this woman did the only thing she could do," Vivian continues, stopping in front of a painting of a phoenix rising from ashes. "She disappeared, changed her name to Vivian Rivers, moved to a small town 3 states away, and started over with nothing but her knowledge of art and an unbreakable determination to protect her children." She touches the frame of the painting gently. "It took her 2 years to get back on her feet, working as a waitress during the day and studying art appraisal at night. But she had something now that she never had before, absolute clarity about what really mattered. The pieces are starting to come together in Richard's mind, but he doesn't want to believe what he's thinking. It's too impossible, too perfectly orchestrated. By the time Jasper and Luna were 5, I'd opened my first small gallery," Vivian says, and her voice is getting stronger, more confident with every word. "Nothing fancy, just a little space where I represented unknown artists. But I had an eye for talent, Richard. I always did. You just never appreciated it." She picks up another document from her desk. "Do you know Marcus Chen? Probably not. He was a struggling painter when I found him 7 years ago. His work just sold at auction for $2 million. What about Isabella Santos? Unknown sculptor when I discovered her. Now her pieces are in the Museum of Modern Art." Richard's mouth is dry as dust. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I didn't just rebuild my life, Richard. I built an empire." Vivian opens the document and starts reading numbers that make Richard's head spin. 47 artists in my stable. Average piece value, $800,000. Total sales last year, $320 million. Commission rate, 40%. She looks up at him with those devastating eyes. "I'm worth more than you are now, Richard. Significantly more." The room starts tilting, and Richard has to grab onto a nearby sculpture to keep from falling over. "That's impossible." "What's impossible," Jasper says, speaking up from where he and Luna have been watching this unfold, "is how many of your business associates have become Mom's clients over the years. Turns out when you build a reputation for integrity and excellence, people want to work with you." Luna nods, holding up her tablet. "We did a project for school last year about your company. Want to know something interesting? 60% of your major contracts over the last 5 years were with companies that buy art from Mom's gallery. Companies that respect her opinion about more than just paintings." The blood drains from Richard's face as the full scope of what's been happening becomes clear. "You've been sabotaging me." "Sabotaging?" Vivian laughs, and it's the most beautiful, terrifying sound Richard's ever heard. "Richard, I haven't done anything to you. I've simply built relationships with ethical, successful people who value integrity. If those people have chosen to stop doing business with you, well," she shrugs elegantly, "maybe you should ask yourself why." She walks over to a wall safe hidden behind a painting and pulls out one final document. "Here's what's going to happen next. You're going to receive this tomorrow morning." She hands him a legal paper that makes his knees buckle. "It's a custody arrangement, but not the kind you're thinking. This gives Jasper and Luna the legal right to choose whether they want any relationship with you at all." Richard stares at the paper, and the words blur together through tears he didn't even know he was crying. "The choice is theirs now, Richard. Just like it always should have been." Richard Blackstone stands in that gallery holding a piece of paper that represents everything he never understood about power. Real power isn't about crushing people beneath you. It's about lifting yourself so high that you don't need to look down. Vivian didn't just survive his cruelty. she transformed it into fuel for a success story that puts his entire empire to shame. She protected her children, built a business empire, and orchestrated the most elegant revenge in history, all while never stooping to his level. The most beautiful part of this story? Vivian never set out for revenge. She just focused on being the best mother, the best businesswoman, and the best human being she could be. Success was her revenge, integrity was her weapon, and love was her shield. While Richard was busy destroying everything good in his life, Vivian was busy creating something magnificent. As for Richard, well, he's got some choices to make. His children, brilliant, confident, successful children who grew up just fine without him, they're willing to give him a chance. Not because they need him, but because they're better people than he ever taught them to be. Whether he's worthy of that gift remains to be seen. This story proves something I've always believed. Karma isn't about punishment, it's about balance. The universe has a way of making sure that good people eventually get what they deserve, and that those who spread darkness eventually find themselves sitting alone in it. Vivien Clark didn't just get her happy ending. She earned it, created it, and built it with her own hands. If this story gave you chills and made you believe in justice again, smash that like button because stories like this need to be shared. And if you want to see more incredible tales of people who refuse to stay down when life knocked them flat, hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Trust me, I've got stories that will restore your faith in humanity and remind you that sometimes, just sometimes, the good guys really do win. What would you have done in Vivian's position? Would you have told Richard about the children, or would you have protected them the way she did? Let me know in the comments below, because I read every single one. Until next time, remember, the best revenge is a life well lived, and sometimes karma wears designer clothes and owns an art gallery. Keep believing in justice, keep fighting for what's right, and never forget that your comeback can be even more powerful than your setback.